Okay. Hello. I made a 10-minute TikTok and then I realized I wanted to talk for a lot longer. So I'm gonna make like a big ass YouTube video. Um, I graduated. No, I didn't graduate, girl, but I'm about to. And I have finals tomorrow and it's 3 the fuck a.m. Like, I think it's almost 4 and I have to wake up at 8 o'clock. And I'm so nervous. Like, I've been so anxious over my finals. And I've been trying to relax. What is that? Oh my god, wait. Let's see if it's raining. No. It sounds like it's raining, but it was just something else. I love the rain, especially special because I am in New Mexico right now. But there's so much I want to talk about. What the hell? There are some brownies in my house or something. Go away! Clean later! Okay. Okay. No, I'm graduating. I'm hopefully. Okay, I'm not gonna feed that, but basically I'm nervous and I'm stressed because I think more than just being stressed about finals, I'm actually stressed of who am I with a college degree? Who am I when I've made something of myself? Who am I when I'm not suffering anymore in school and I can focus on my dreams? And I want to talk a little bit about my story of coming back to school. And I know this is just like a little, I don't know if it is really a little thing though. So I dropped out of college in 2018. Actually, the winter of 2019. And I used to tell people that I dropped out because of COVID happened, and that's the easy answer, is when someone asks about me being in college before, which happens often now that I'm in college, because I'm almost 29, and I'm in college, so people ask me. The easy answer is, oh, I dropped out because of COVID-19 and blah, blah, blah. But the real answer is, my senior year of college, my grandma, my grandma got cancer, and in the fall, she died. And My mom lost her job around the same time that her sickness, my grandma's sickness, got serious, and my parents divorced very quickly. Like it all happened so quickly. And everything sort of unraveled. I saw all of the dark pieces and the wounds of my dad and the wounds of my mom. And my mom was sort of pushed out of everyone in her life and labeled as the black sheep, which is what she's been labeled as her whole life. There's a moment that I want to talk about just briefly where my mom tells this story better, but I was a little boy and she was driving us home in the car somewhere in like more North Michigan, and she was driving us home to Ann Arbor, and everyone had fallen asleep in the car and it was late, and she felt tired, and she was the one responsible for driving the vehicle, and she would look back in the little rearview mirror every so often, and I would still be awake, and I'd be there, and I'd look at her. Always. She'd always check. She'd check it intermittently, and I'd just be looking. And I'm so lucky to have my mom. I know there are so many people with mother wounds. There are so many people with wounded mothers in particular and don't know what it feels like. And she's far from perfect, as we all are. But I'm so lucky. And I've always loved her, and she's always loved me. And she's not like a typical mom, like the mom archetype of the nurturer. She's very nurturing, but not that archetype. My mom is intelligent. She's intelligent, she's decisive, she's empowering, she's brave, she's really courageous. And she's why I am brave. And I wasn't even supposed to be born, I don't think. Like, everything around my birth is kind of weird because she was 42 when she had me. And the fact that, like, I was born and so healthy doesn't always happen. Sometimes when you have children when you're a lot older, sometimes there's more crazy things that happen. But they didn't even expect to have another child after my brother. But here I am. And it's special too because I get her last name. And in particular, her last name, there's not a saying, but I don't know how you would say it, but they call the women in my family Innis girls. And what that means is resilient, intelligent, problem solving, brave, kind, fierce, leading with bravery and kindness, standing up for the right things, caring about the people you love, being tenacious. And it's true when you look at the women in my mom's family. And when my mom divorced my dad, it was really, really icky. Like, it was just really warped for a while. Everything breaks, everything falls apart in a family. And there was a point where I had to choose a side, as a lot of people may be familiar with. When you deal with anyone that has tendencies that are somewhat narcissistic, you either have to choose one or the other. And I'm very familiar with this because my last boyfriend was narcissistic, had some of his traits. And so with every breakup he has, people have to choose a side because there's no mixed, I did this wrong, they did that wrong, I'm taking ownership of this, they did some things wrong that they're taking ownership of. No. It's I am the victim, I am the angel, I am the good guy, I am in the light, right? The yang, the masculine, the light, hiding the darkness. That's what narcissistic traits are, is bathing in the light and hiding the dark. And because of that, oftentimes when there's a separation of a person who's very, very yang, very masculine, very love and light, very positivity, very focused on the material, or very narcissistic, there's no option to connect with both people. You either are with the narcissistic person or the yang person. I don't like to say narcissistic because it's like a diagnosis. But the masculine person, toxic in the light, or you're with the other person. And with the separation of my parents, because my dad is he's so yang, he's so energetically masculine, he's very, very optimistic, very, very positive, and the problem that comes with that is there's a lack of the yin, and the yin is the darkness that the light, the real light, is born within. The real light, real love is born within the pain, within the realness, within the truth. And that's really difficult to look at and see. But it is the essence of femininity. And my mom is very yin. And she's gone through so much. My dad as well. But my dad approaches his issues in more of a optimistic way, positive way. It can sometimes be toxically positive because it's ignoring some painful things that might need to be felt and moved through your body. And if you're just glued to the positive, they won't move through your body. And so I sided with my mom, essentially. And she was almost all I had in 2019. I stopped talking to my brother. I stopped talking to my father. I blocked them. I didn't talk to anyone in my family. And I lost all my friends in college. I should talk about the crazy psycho bitch one time. I'll tell that story maybe. Let's write that down. Tell YouTube. Tell YouTube about the crazy psycho bitch. Crazy psycho bitch, okay? With Jane Ellen, okay? We're inviting Jane Ellen. All right. The crazy psycho bitch I lived with. I literally would brush my teeth and she'd say, lights off. No lights on. I would take a shower after 10 o'clock and she'd say, you're wasting water. She was crazy. She was crazy psycho bitch, okay? And I lived with her. And what I learned, really, I learned this so deeply. And it will come into play when I write my story. And when I say my story, I mean the series, the fantasy series. That will be one of the greatest fantasy series of the century. I won't give a lot of details, but I've been writing this for a very long time. And I'm not going to deliver it until I'm ready to. But what I've learned is when an angel or a beautiful person or a person that's beautiful on the outside and on the inside, or just one, beautiful on the inside, beautiful on the outside, or both, starts to go through trauma and pain and fall, people do not help you, lift you back up, support you, or help you back up to where you were. As you're falling, they'll pick pieces of you. They'll take you apart and they'll rip you to shreds. To grab a jewel, to grab a feather, to grab a piece of your crown for their own narcissistic egos to feed off of as you fall from grace. And I learned that so thoroughly in 2019. People you trust, people you love, people you thought cared about you, they only cared about what they were gaining from you. They only cared about your status. And the truth is, as soon as you falter, like piranhas, like hyenas, like vultures, they're there to pick a piece of the meat and watch you fall and watch you fail. And I say that because this crazy psycho bitch I lived with started throwing rumors around and ruining my life, preying off of the fact that I was really vulnerable. My grandma was gone, my parents were divorcing, my life was falling apart. I don't think I talked about this, but I've been assaulted a handful of times in my adult life, particularly in my young adult life. And I think you know what I'm talking about, what kind of assault I'm talking about. It's not like getting mugged or something. And there was something that happened that winter as well. of 2019. 2018, 2019. And I was choreographing a dance piece. It was my final dance piece for the semester, for my year, really. And it was really, really something. I think I have to find a way to re-choreograph it. Not only remake it, but share it. Not just with a live audience, but with the fucking internet. Somehow. I think I have to do that. Because I think people need to see it. I'm not going to say what the title was, but it was the last line in a book of poetry that found me coincidentally in Missoula, Montana. And that piece fell apart as well. It was like the only thing keeping me going through all of this pain was the art I was making, and I poured everything into it, like my whole being. It was the one fucking thing that gave me a will to live. And this wicked, wicked, evil man. He was the director of the dance department at the college I was going to. It was in Washington. I was guarded about my piece with him because I had history with him and I knew how twisted he was and how wicked he was. And I had gotten a bit on his bad side by my senior year because I had refused some romantic advances. And he was gross. He was like 70 years old and uncomfortable and weird. And I had refused some of his advances and weird things he was doing. And I stopped working with him. I stopped being in dance things with him. And I stopped doing everything he wanted because he was making me uncomfortable, like grooming. And my senior year, he started to get involved, and he was like the one overseeing all the student dance choreographed things. And I saw him start to infiltrate into my rehearsals. So he would come in sometimes and it was really weird. And he would make criticisms and poke holes in things. And there was like a darkness everywhere he went. It was just like really, really icky. And I remember he came into a rehearsal one time and he was livid and he said, "Your piece has to be under 12 minutes or it's getting canceled." And he said, "It's not my decision, it's the board's decision." There is no board. There was no board, he was just lying. And my piece was 21 minutes long. 21. Cards in Major Arcana. It was 21 minutes long. And it was so fucking good and so beautiful. I could have put that piece on a stage, but he wasn't just hell-bent on making sure it wasn't put in the show. He was hell-bent on destroying every little bit of hope that I had left and hurting me so that nothing remained. Because he was ugly and unhappy and miserable and an ugly person on the inside and the outside, and couldn't stand to see me living a beautiful life or doing things in a beautiful way. I don't know. But he started pulling some of my dancers aside and asking to talk to them in his office. And he talked to one dancer in particular. He kept trying to find the weak link in my group of girls. There were 9. He kept trying to find the weak link and figure out who he could manipulate, because he was a very deviously manipulative person. I remember in previous years going into his office with an intention and an idea and knowing what I wanted to say, and leaving his office apologizing profusely for something and feeling like I was the bad person and feeling confused about why I went in the first place. So he was gaslighting, he was twisted, he was literally, I have never met a more evil person than him. And I started to, basically what I started to do for this narcissist is I started to reveal who he was to other people, talk about who he was to other people. And if anyone knows anything about dealing with a narcissist, as soon as you start to do that, they will do everything they can to discredit you, to say you're the bad person, you're the evil person, because they can't lose their ego or their facade to the truth. Anyone that brings truth has to be turned into an evil, wicked villain. And that's what I became. And although I spent months demonstrating through actions who I was to my dancers, a couple of them believed him when he started to say I was the most manipulative person, I was twisted, I was selfish, I was narcissistic, I was full of myself. They believed him, as people do, even though all of my actions proved otherwise. And they had not known this man at all. He was in a position of power, and they believed everything that he was saying. And I lost my dancers. They got really, like 2 of them got really defiant, stopped listening to me, stopped caring about me, stopped respecting me. And when it came time for the dress rehearsals and stuff, when I showed up one time, he had called all of them earlier without my permission to the dress rehearsal. Called them all like 20 minutes earlier and basically said my piece was canceled, there's nothing we could do. He didn't do that though. He asked them. He talked to them and asked them, so what do you want to do? Right? And they had this conversation with my 9 dancers without me present about what they were going to do about my piece. And they all were intimidated and scared by him and didn't understand why he was behaving like this, but decided to cancel the piece because that was really the only option they had out of fear. And I don't blame them for that. But then I arrived and I was confused. I didn't know what was going on, what was happening. And suddenly, all my dancers were walking out. It was like the week of the show. Some of them stopped talking to me and hated me. I went up to him because I was confused, like, what's going on? He said, I have nothing to say to you. So I was just like so gaslit. What's going on? Why is there no, the rug being pulled out from under me? And before my dancers left, I did say to them, like, this is narcissistic abuse. If any of you are curious, that's what this is. It was staple narcissistic abuse of the whole thing, of the discarding, of the calling me an evil, wicked, demonic person, of labeling me as such, doing a smear campaign, ruining my reputation, turning everyone against me, using manipulation, right? When really, I'm the best fucking kindest hearted person there, the one most committed to authenticity, most committed to truth, creating a beautiful work of fucking art. And that really killed it for me. Losing that piece was like the last straw. And 2019 was the darkest year of my life. I moved to Montana to try to run away from everything. And I ended up not having anyone, not having any support, not knowing anyone. I lived in like 6 different places while living in Montana. I worked at like a restaurant, worked at a McDonald's, I was a busboy, I was a janitor, all these shitty jobs. And not a day went by from like April, really, to maybe March, where I didn't want to end my life. I should have euphemized that, probably. I should have. But it was so dark. It was so hard. I was so alone. I lost all my friends. I'll talk about the crazy psycho bitch I lived with, but that ruined my outside of school, outside of dance friend group. And my friend group within dance was completely ruined and tainted because of this man. My family was torn apart. It was a dark night of the soul that I've like harder than I've ever known anything before. And now years later, I've still struggled with poverty, homelessness, isolation, not having friends, rebuilding my sense of self, going to therapy. And in April of 2020, my mom had a sixth sense for how dark it was for me. She has had this a lot in her life. Even when she gave me my name, my legal name, she got a message from her dad saying to name me after him. And I think there will be a reason for that. At some point in my life, it'll make sense. In 2019 is when I started going by Pan, and I started doing that because it was a nickname she'd adopted for me. The past couple years before 2019, and my mom was the only person, literally the only fucking person, the only fucking person in my life who was by my side and loved me. When I was being gaslit, when everyone else was turned against me, when everyone else thought I was a horrible, wicked, twisted person who did everything wrong, who made mistakes, and the mistakes were magnified under a magnifying glass, who was told I was worthless and evil and wicked and twisted, when I knew in my heart that I was authentic and true and kind and courageous and intelligent and brave. But everything in my external circumstances was telling me otherwise. My mom was the only one there. And I was there for her. Just like the little blonde boy in the car. Not falling asleep. She, was also kind of in a similar situation, being turned into the black sheep of our family in the divorce. So this all comes back to me being at school, and I'm not graduating from dance school, and I'm not recreating my dance piece, but it's a piece of it. It's a piece of the story. In 2020, my mom she fucking drove to Montana from Oregon to pick me up because I think she knew how close I was. And she also knew how special I was. When I literally was working at McDonald's, poor, not anything, not having anything, she knew. She knew how special I was. She saw my worth. Without any materialistic things, any masculine face value things to prove my worth, she knew it and she saw it. That is a true feminine. That's why feminine is connected to empathy, because you can see the value of people. And she basically saved me. She drove to Montana. She got this feeling and this sense that she just had to come get me. It was COVID, almost April of 2020, and she just saved me. She brought me back to live with her in Central Oregon, and I basically collapsed, and I was so broken and so tired. I didn't do almost anything for months. And in May, living in Oregon, I downloaded Tinder and I matched with this guy. And I think I said something to him and he ignored me. This is a common theme in love, but I end up initiating and approaching him from a masculine place of chasing, which isn't a bad thing as a gay guy, but it took me a long time to realize I'm not a masculine, I'm a feminine. So when I chase in love, it's always fucked up. It's always not working. I have to attract, and that's hard. But this guy I met in May of 2020, and I think I met him for the first time in June. I met him, and we went on a first date. I think I drove to his apartment or his house. He started talking about his life, like all of the the painful, difficult things going on in his life at that time. Like this roommate he had, this crazy girl roommate who was really draining. And we just hung out, like we just spent time together. I remember we sat in the grass in a park near his house. I was gonna take him to McDonald's, but he said, "Can we go to Panda Express instead?" And that was weird. I remember when we went to Panda Express, he ordered some things, and I ordered different things. But what he ordered at Panda Express was exactly what I would get. And there was a couple weird things that happened that first time I met him. And the first time I met him, there was a lot of me listening and him speaking. And he was at this really dark place in his life, like very, very dark, similar to where I was. Like literally the lowest, girl, rock bottom. And there was a couple pieces of music that played in the car, I remember. And he knew the lyrics too. And there were some mannerisms he had. And he had excitement about a certain song he wanted to show me. I think our first date even, I had an Airbnb and I got a bottle of wine. And I think literally maybe 60 minutes to maybe 2 hours, I knew there was something really strange about this connection. I knew it in my body and in my soul. And I didn't know how to explain it. I remember we went to like the beach on North Portland, because that's where he was at the time. We went to the beach by the North River, and I remember this lady got out of her car and she was moving really slowly, and we both like laughed hysterically at it. And I was tripping because I was like, she's moving slowly. Why is she moving so slowly? And he's like, she is moving slowly. And I remember I put a shit ton of sunscreen in my hand because I said basically like, why do we just put squirt a little bit out at a time? Why don't we just squirt all of what we need out at the same time? And I squirted like a giant fucking thing of sunscreen, and then it was in my hand, and I looked at him and I just chucked it at his leg. And he had a glob of sunscreen on his leg. And he was really in a lot of darkness, though, at the time. I remember going out of the car at the beach and him sitting cross-legged behind a bush in the sand, and I sat facing him cross-legged. And a lot of times when he was talking, he would look down, and then he'd look up at me, but he'd fidget with his hands, either pulling at grass when we were in the park or playing with the sand. And I remember before we left, I remember this really vividly. I remember walking along the beach, and he held my hand, and it was like the most secure, safe feeling that I've ever felt in my life. And it was really strange. And we went and sat down on the sand and laid on next to each other and looked up at the sky. And I think we were talking about things, but we were like in the middle of a crowd. And he held my hand again. And when he held my hand, like a baby started crying near us. Like upset crying. And then like storm clouds started rolling in. And the wind started picking up. And we were just sitting there, like looking at the sky, holding hands, just enjoying. And and then this black lady behind us was like, "Oh hell no, time to leave, time to leave." Like, and she was talking about the baby, I think, but we both like started giggling and then laughing because it felt like, oh no, here they go. The gays are coming. The gays are holding hands. Time to go. The storm's rolling in. The babies are crying. And it was really fucking hilarious at the time. And I think she said, "That's nasty. That's nasty." I think there was someone, I think that's what it was. It was, "That's nasty." And then, "It's time to go," you know? And she was not talking about us, but it felt like that. And it was so hilarious. And we just were laughing, laughing, laughing. But it was like the most connected I had ever felt to someone in my life. And I felt so seen, and I felt so like safe and good. And as you can imagine, we met a couple more times. I won't talk about the other times, but slowly it started to detach. And we maybe met a couple times over the course of like a month or so. And then it was just texting. And I texted, and I was so in my masculine, so chasey, so texting, so constantly messaging him, constantly texting him, constantly checking on him. Even when we first met, I was always asking him, how are you feeling? Do you feel okay? Blah, blah, blah. And he just kept pulling away. It was like he was falling into darkness, almost. And I internalized it a lot for a while as something was wrong with me. But I know now that that's not the case. And in maybe August, he was gone. He had moved back to New Mexico, actually. To the city that I live in currently. And I got a job as a barista, and I met this girl as a barista who was Hawaiian, and she was so kind and so spiritual, and was a huge catalyst for me in my spiritual awakening that happened over the next couple years. And when I talked to her about him, she was the first one to say yang and yin and talk about twin souls. And it set me down this path for, 2 years? Really 3, before I was literally beat over the face with super duper clear confirmation that that's what this was for me. And he was that. And that's all. Like, I just get to know that. I don't actually get to do anything with it. But this all comes into play a little bit in this equation, because I was a barista for a year in 2020 to 2021, the summer. I quit because it sucked. I hated working with children, literally girl children. It's so annoying. So much drama. Where it doesn't need to exist, girl. Okay, but anyways, I quit. And then I started working as a cashier. And I got into therapy. And things started to look a little bit better. And I just obsessed over this guy. So hard. And in 2022, I wanted to leave Central Oregon for a couple reasons. It was really dead. It was really not a good place to be as a young gay man. It's just not. There's not even a gay bar, okay? It's not the place for me. So I made a quest to start looking where to go. And on January 17th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I went to visit Portland, and on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, address 777, there was a exhibit for Vincent van Gogh. And I was going to check it out with this guy I met online who I might be roommates with. And I spent the day with him, got to know him a little bit. He was really cool, but it wasn't right. And I was in Portland and I was like, this is really not right. It's really hard, it's really expensive, it's very dark, and I don't know how I would make it happen here. My brother was living in Portland at the time, so it was like, he told me not to move to Portland because he had literally been struggling, suffering for a couple years living there. But I decided to move to... No, I didn't decide to move, actually. I went home, and then in April, I visited Bellingham, Washington, which is where I was going to school before. And I went there with my mom. In the car, we read the Atlas 6. I have really good memories of that. And we stayed at a hotel that she always used to stay at when she came to visit me and see me dance. And we went down memory lane in 2022, visiting Bellingham again. And we went to the Fred Meyer, and we went to the college, and I visited some people, and there was something really uplifting about being on campus, but there was something extremely dark about being in town. And it was because of the man that had instigated my downfall and him being there. Just him being in that city was scary to me. And so then we left Bellingham. And I didn't know what to do, because those were my two options that I had come up with, and neither felt good. And driving home from Bellingham, I kept seeing the number 1110, 1110. And I made an interpretation of that number, which was door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, a new beginning. And I had seen what's behind door number 1 in Portland. And I had seen what's behind door number 2 in Bellingham. And I didn't like either for my new beginning. So I went home. And I thought I was going to move before the summer, but I didn't. And so I had to get a summer job. I started as a lifeguard in Central Oregon. And it was a great job. It was wonderful. I worked with my therapist. I was working with her still. And I basically the way the seed got planted for Albuquerque, because I already knew about this city, because of the guy. And it was there in my mind, but not as something I was thinking about moving to. I didn't want to move to LA. I didn't want to move anywhere in California. I didn't want to go to Idaho. I didn't want to go back to Montana. I could have looked at Seattle, I guess. I didn't want to go to Las Vegas. I didn't want to go far east, any farther east than like Colorado. And I didn't know what my option was. And I went to apply before I got the lifeguard job. I applied at a job at a diner in Oregon, in Central Oregon. And I interviewed with the owner. And after our interview, I told him a little bit about my plans. I even opened up about looking for a place to move to go to college. And he said, "You should check out Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is the most up-and-coming town in this good nation." Okay, this random dude. Like, okay, that was weird, you know? And he was telling me how they wanted him to open a diner down there, but he didn't want to. He thinks it's really up and coming as a town, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up getting the job as a lifeguard, but I talked to my therapist about Albuquerque. And my therapist got her undergrad degree at UNM, which is a university in Albuquerque, University of New Mexico. And she moved up to Oregon for her master's and became a licensed therapist in Oregon. And she was also queer, which really fucking helped me. Really helped me as a gay person who needs therapy. Having a gay therapist, oh my God. But when I told her, she said, basically, like, add my name to the list. I think that you should check it out. I think it would be a good place for you. And she was passionate. She was like, I remember I moved there as a young person, and at first I thought it would suck, and then I ended up absolutely loving it, and it was amazing for me. It was a great place for me to be. I was there when I was around your age, and she knew me really fucking well, because literally knows all my trauma, and she just suggested this. So I bought a plane ticket. I invited my friend to go with me. And I planned a trip to Albuquerque. And I went at the end of July in 2022. I texted this guy that I told you about earlier. When I got there, there was nothing. He didn't respond, which is okay. And while I was there, I planned all these things to do. I did so many cool things. I got boba. I went around this place called Nob Hill. I saw murals. I went to a pool party. I went to a drag show. I went to all these cool shops. I went to Lush. I went to like a metaphysical store, which I now frequent to get spiritual supplies. I had just an amazing fucking time. I went on a date with a guy. I also got asked to go on a date with another guy who ended up being the guy that I dated next summer when I lived in Albuquerque. He invited me on a date, but I said, I already got one, baby boy. And then basically, after I got home, I decided to move. I made friends with one person while I was in Albuquerque. He was at the gay pool party, and he was also at the drag show, and his name was Jaron. And he was really cute and really handsome and really nice to me. And when I looked at places to live, I called the first place I saw that I liked, around the part of town that I liked. I called it. And guess who picked up the motherfucking phone? It was Jaron. Hello, this is Jaron. Jaron? And it was me. It was so cool. He was such an important little piece because I ended up moving because not only the first place I called that I liked, that I resonated with, I moved here and he was the front desk person. But I moved in October. Halloween was like the first day I was here-ish. And it was hard. It was very hard. In 2022, it was hard. And I was here all alone. I had this apartment that you see, all alone. I was here all by myself. I didn't know what to do. I started door dashing for money. I had a plan to go to school, but I wasn't going to do that until I got residency. And, you know, I got a couch. And then I started trying to make it fucking happen. And the winter was really, really goddamn hard. When the summer rolled around, this was 2023 now. The summer rolled around in 2023, and I started dating this guy. Exclusively dating him, although we weren't boyfriends. That was a huge mistake. I also slept with him before he had really earned it. That was also a huge mistake. One I won't repeat. But this guy, we were like perfect catalysts for each other. And our wounds sort of perfectly matched one another. Intimacy was really, really good. But that's about the only thing that was good. And it quickly fell apart, like within a couple months. Partly because I felt so invisible. I felt so unseen. I felt so not cared about. I felt like I didn't mean anything. I felt like I had no worth. And meanwhile, he was talking to other guys behind my back. He was downplaying it like they were nothing. He was talking to boys from his past. Doing all sorts of things like that. And then it sort of collapsed when I basically cheated on him. Although I don't consider it cheating if you're not actually my boyfriend. Like, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it, girl. Oh, you're mad that some other guy wants me, that some other guy's gonna put in the work to treat me how I want to be treated, and then he gets access to me? Boo-hoo. But that caused a big rupture in our connection. I was also in a really dark place when I cheated on him, and I felt so alone. And also, by the way, he went to a music festival that he expected me to get my own ticket and buy my own ticket to this music festival to go with him. It's like, what fucking delusional world are you from? You should be buying my ticket, baby. Taking me, buying my plane ticket, buying my ticket to the thing and taking me. That's what you should be doing. What is this? So he's delusional, basically. Thinking he just gets it all for free. But, you know, it is what it is. Some men are like that. And I felt really dark when he was gone. And this guy I met at a event was just really, really nice to me. And really respectful and really charming. And listened to me and, you know, made me feel cared about, made me feel seen. And it was a hookup, but it was also like something that I was missing in the guy that I was actually dating. Because we weren't boyfriends. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it, okay? Call them your boyfriend, make it official if you want exclusivity, okay? That's what I think. And things fell apart with that relationship. I should also say that that boyfriend, not boyfriend, is what I talked about in my other post about when I started working at the swim school for little children. And that same swim school ended up being a workplace that my twin worked at before. And I ended up working with his brother for months without realizing it until I was fired in the fall. But everything collided in the fall of 2023 because I went back and forth. It fizzled out with this guy I was dating. And it sort of ended because I forced it to end. Because if it's starting to be back and forth and fizzled and I'm getting strung along and the relationship's starting again, and then it's ending again, and then when it's starting and then it's over and then it's starting, and I'm like, this is crazy. I just go full psycho and do something so crazy where that they won't ever open the door again because I'm tired of the merry-go-round. Okay, so I broke in his house. I threw his hair blow dryer in the laundry hamper. I put the death card on his nightstand, okay? I moved all his crystals around to different parts of his house. I went full crazy, okay? But it was after he did something. He basically kissed another guy on the dance floor twice, okay? So he deserved it. Okay, anyways, I went full-blown crazy in October, okay? And then I got fired, and then I found out I was working with my twin's brother for months. And then I went to a yoga class. I went over all of this before, but then I went to a yoga class the next day because my life was chaos and in despair. And the girl at the yoga class was randomly brought up her friend who used to live in Portland that she visited because I had a rose literally sticker on my crock. Wait, right here. Look at this shit. Look at this. See that? That little fucking thing is the reason this yoga teacher girl was like, my friend lived in Portland. And you know what? That friend was my twin. So there was all these connections to my twin. Broke up with this guy. Literally went full-blown psycho on him.